And welcome to Let Freedom Ring. Doing a couple shows this week. Had a big amount of episodes this week, but I want to welcome from Jack's Rangers podcast, the host of the show, Phil Harris. Welcome to the show.
Hey, happy to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, really excited about this. It was a great weekend for the Free Jacks and the Free Jacks fans. We're going to get into that, but we want to get to know you just a little bit before that. Where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up? Where are you living now?
Yeah, man. So I originally grew up in a little town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, about 30 miles west called Kings Mountain, North Carolina. Born and raised there. It's actually one of the turning points of the Revolutionary War Southern campaign. Without that victory there, we actually might be calling Oreos chocolate sandwich biscuits right now. So it's my ancestors fought in that battle as well. So he was a lieutenant colonel in the Continental Army there, and he got injured. So he settled like a mile and a half from the battlefield because of the injury. He couldn't continue to serve in the Continental Army. So that's how my family basically came about to be in that area. Pretty wild.
Awesome, awesome. But you're local to New England now.
Yes, that's
Uh,
correct.
how, how did that happen?
So about 12 years ago, I'd graduated from the University of South Carolina, Go Fighting Gamecocks. I played rugby there as well. But yeah, I just decided, like I'm tired of the humid weather here. I wanted to kind of get away from the Carolinas because born and raised in the Carolinas, went to college there as well and in South Carolina. So I was like, I want to go someplace I don't know anybody, and it's just completely different. So New Hampshire was beautiful. Has a rich political history as well with the first in the nation primary. So I thought that was kind of cool. No taxes as well. So that's always nice. No state or income tax. So that's why I decided to come up here. I didn't know a single soul
Oh
really,
wow.
talked to some people online about moving up there, but actually didn't know anybody in real life in person. So I had no family in the area. That my closest relatives, like distant relatives, are in like Pennsylvania, but like my uncle lives in Maryland, so that was the closest place. So yeah, really just
Awesome.
decided to take a gamble, is what it was, and it's paid off. I've been here for 12 years. I love it here. I love being, an adopted son of New England.
Awesome. And it's like you did the opposite. We're here and everybody wants to move down south because
Yeah,
they don't want
yeah,
to deal with the cold anymore.
right.
So
Yeah,
uh,
I love the cold weather. I'd much rather have cold weather than humid weather, which in the Carolinas, it starts from about right now and goes until October. It's just humid and sticky and gross. So yeah, they can keep that weather down there, man, for real.
awesome, awesome. Now, what's three things that everybody should know about you?
I said one of them already. I played at rugby at the University of South Carolina, so that's one. Um, what else? Oh Lord. Big Gamecocks fan, obviously that's a given, and a big Free Jacks fan. So those are yeah, the top three things that goes on in my life on a daily basis.
Were you into rugby before you got to college, or was that something like you kind of found you
Yes,
got there?
oddly enough, as most people in the South around my time frame, they only got exposed to rugby in college. But for I'm a big computer guy, so I was playing around on the internet one day and happened to stumble upon rugby when I was like a junior or senior in high school. So of course didn't have any teams locally in the area that played high school rugby. There was no such thing really in North Carolina. So I bought a ball on eBay and told all
Uh-huh.
my friends about it, and we're like, yeah, let's play rugby. And so we got together a team. We really didn't know what the heck we were doing. We just tried our best. We actually had two kids that moved to my small hometown from New Zealand, that kind of was our little unofficial coaches slash referees. So they
Yeah.
kind of helped us learn the game. And that kind of fizzled out. We got about like 30 kids at one point, like basically playing like intramural high school rugby, and it fizzled out. So I decided to join a men's club team, which normally that traditionally is after college. I decided to join the team there in Charlotte when I was about 17 or 18 years old before going to college. So learned really how to play there. Cut my teeth with the Charlotte men's rugby club.
Awesome. What positions?
Oh, I'm really tall in real life, so I always played lock, which is second row, which is 4 and 5. So the tall guys, the giraffes. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Now sticking with the theme of the show, which is Let Freedom Ring, and we ask every guest this. I love saying sticking with the theme of the show. I think I need to put that on a shirt. But
Yeah.
it means a lot of different things to a lot of people, this question. But what does it mean to you to be an American?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question, and I'm somebody that really values freedom and liberty, which is the absence of government, like in people's lives. I think that's probably again, being that type of person, you really want people to make their own choices about how they want to live their own lives. But for me, I just want to have self sovereignty as much as possible, and I think in the United States we still have a little bit of that left. Um, and that's what this country was founded on. It was really a miracle that it even took place to separate ourselves from England, Great Britain. For that to happen is really a truly a miracle that it did take place. And the original ideas of this country are so grand that other countries, also fought and bled for the same ideas. Most notably France, it kind of got away from them there, but yeah, this country is great in general. And I'm proud to be an American. It's one of those things where we don't get a choice of where we're born, but I'm so thankful that I was born here and raised in this country.
No, I like that answer. It's like Creed Bratton says, "I already won the lottery. I was born in the USA, baby."
Love that show, by the way. Big fan.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Let's get into this too because this, I want to talk about this. Oh, that didn't come out as well as I wanted to. The Free Jacks had their first home game this weekend.
Yes.
This is the first time I've had a chance to attend a Free Jacks game. I've gotten into this this year because like we do have a Plymouth State alumni player on the team,
Mhm.
Cam, and you can say his name better than me. Uh,
Davidowitz. Yeah.
Davidowitz on the team, and I just saw a lot of posting about it, and I saw that the games were on TV, and I was like, I'd
Mhm.
really love to start watching the entertainment value is there. I think
Mhm.
if you ever play the game, and I didn't play long, I played 2 years, and still, I just it's just a fun game to watch
Mhm.
if you know what's going on. Um, what were your thoughts on this game this weekend? It was a little cold. Was that a
Yeah,
good crowd
yeah.
for them?
It was a really good crowd. It was 2,400 people that came out and braved those elements of sideways cold rain that then turned into snow. And there's not a lot of shelter there. It's not like we could go indoors. There's the lantern area, but that's also exposed there in the Ritzy area on the pitch there, off the pitch rather. But yeah, so most of us were out there just jumping up and down, doing whatever, dancing around just to try to stay warm. But extremely encouraging for the first game. What the Free Jacks are doing, which is so smart, is they're bringing this festival style atmosphere. So this organization, which is one of the best in MLR, if not the best, by the way. So it's kind of like states. You get these little experiments in every single little market of who's doing things right and who's doing things wrong with this sports landscape here for rugby, and the Free Jacks do it really well. So they've decided to do festivals along with the actual rugby on the pitch to try to draw in other fans because, you and I, because we have experience with rugby, of course, we love the game and we want to see it in person and we want to support our local team. But you can't just bank on, former players or people that just randomly see it from whatever way or know somebody that plays. They can't bank on that to be successful. They have to draw in NFL fans or other fans of sports in the United States to come in, or just randos that want to have a good time and then see the product on the pitch and say, "Oh, this is awesome. I don't really like sports, but I love rugby." That's what they're trying to do with these festival type atmospheres. So they have music, they have food, all of this cool stuff that's going on, and all by the way, there's rugby on the pitch that people can be exposed to as well.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool. Now, I not to brag, but I got to go in the suite because I got the
Nice.
trivia question right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who has the most tries this season for the Free Jacks, which is my favorite player.
Hmm.
I love watching this guy, Bodine Waka.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's the he's absolutely on fire, and I think that just as a testament to how well he's been playing. Prior to coming to the Free Jacks this season, he of course he was with us since the very beginning. It seems he's been playing down in New Zealand, so that was an easy transition for him. I think he had maybe a month off, if that, from playing in season there in New Zealand to coming over here, and he's absolutely on fire. The best player in the league, and I'm glad you got that question right. But to be honest, it was pretty easy because he is our best player by far.
By far, I mean,
Yeah,
and like I said, I said, I brought a whole crew
nice,
with me. We got to
very
go in
cool.
there and they didn't know any of the players or anything like that. So they're like, I'm like,
Mhm.
no, guys, I've been watching every week, and this was if you watch every week, it was a pretty slam dunk
Yeah.
question there.
Hmm.
What do you think overall of Veterans Memorial Stadium where they play? I actually thought it was a pretty cool venue. It didn't need to be Gillette Stadium,
Right.
obviously, for what they're going for. But what do you think of that venue? And I did see people and posting in the Free Jacks fan page about parking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, what do you think of the venue? What do you think of the parking situation?
Well, I think it's really good for rugby in the United States right now. We can get up to 5,000 in there, and they can expand it beyond that. I think the discussion it could be is if the demand is there, they can get up to 8,000 in there with some modifications if they need be. Ultimately, what we want, of course, is a rugby specific stadium, which is what Houston has. I'm not sure what the capacity is, but it's brand new. It's only like 3 years old at this point. Beautiful venue down there that I'd love to go to one day sometime in the near future. That's what we want a place to call our own. But right now, that is a perfect situation for the Free Jacks because 5,000, that's easily doable. I think right now the record for Major League Rugby is 3,600, which was set by Utah. I mean, if we can get 2,400 in freezing rain slash snow and cold temperatures, there's no way that we can't get to 5,000 at some point this season. They just have to, the product on the field is really good. So it's not like you're going to see a team that's going to get their butt kicked in a game. So there's always that possibility that we're going to win regardless of who we play. So I think that helps quite a bit. Now, keep in mind that venue was also where the local professional lacrosse team played before
Okay.
they, folded. So the city and that organization about 3 or 4 years ago put in about $2 million of renovations there.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you got the jumbotron, you got the seats, they got the bathrooms that were renovated. The locker rooms are legit; they're professional locker rooms. Whereas previously, for the Free Jacks, they were changing in a tent essentially that they set up there. So, yeah, much better accommodations this time around this season.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. These are just some photos that I took. There's the
Yeah.
team during, I
Mhm.
think, nationally, and this is in the box. And then
Oh, yeah.
the snow on a rugby field always looks totally cool there. I really like that
Yes, it
image.
does.
I wish I did a better job, taking that picture. And obviously they had the banners
Nice.
up, but yeah, I guess yeah. And for the park, I didn't think it was that bad. We parked on the street, but it looked like there were places like you could actually tailgate. But I don't know if you were allowed in there
Yes.
or not.
So what that is that's the preferred parking area. I think I know what you're referring to. I bought the parking pass for that, but I actually stayed across the street at the Howard Johnson just to test it out because I know a lot of people were doing that this season. Getting real lit and just going over there and stumbling in and hitting the hay there. So I think I just wanted to try that out. But normally I would be parking in that area that you're referring to. The issue that people were having is I guess there wasn't an attendant there, which is pretty crucial if you're asking people to pay $260
Oh, wow,
for a
okay.
season pass for that parking there. So that has to be corrected. I'm sure that they will get to that. This is an organization that is so good. They're aware of the concerns of the fans. They want to get it right. So I'm sure that next game, which is in about a month from now or so, we will see an attendant there there the entire time, making sure that they're checking the passes for people to get in there.
Yeah, because I mean, I would definitely love as it gets warmer. I would pay a little extra to park there if they
Yeah.
allow you to bring a grill or whatever
Yes,
like that.
for sure.
Um, and like you said, the performance of the team has been really good so far. And I haven't watched the previous seasons. Are we seeing a much better team over the last couple of years?
Yes. So the first season 3 years ago at this point, they lost every single game except for one, I believe. But that was the COVID shortened season, so it wasn't a full season. They were away most of the time. So all of the Northeast teams are starting these games away from home because of the cold weather. Right? There's concerns about selling tickets, which the Free Jacks I think just debunked that completely with 2,400. But regardless of that, last year they were really good at home and they only lost one game at home. But the issue was our away form was really bad. We won a couple games on the road, don't get me wrong, but mainly we look like a different team on the road. But this year, like I said, we played most of our games so far on the road, and we're 4-1 right now, looking really good as well. This team, I think, is built for the playoffs, which the Boston area absolutely loves. Right? People aren't really paying attention unless a team is a contender around here, just because we're so
Used
used
to it.
to. Yes, yes. I was going to say spoiled, but that's not true. We're
Yeah.
just used to championship teams around here.
Yeah, understandable. No, I think they look great so far. I only have one other question, really. Do you think we could see growth with rugby? As television contracts, we know the XFL is coming back next year, now owned by the Rock. And now they have a partnership with the NFL.
Yes.
The US FL is coming. I don't see that really working, but
Mhm.
are they going to be battling to, maybe get better TV deals in the future?
I mean, yeah, the whole thing, and I know that the smartest people that are involved in rugby are aware of this, and I'm sure it gets them red in the face about their efforts in trying to steer this in the right direction. I've always said, so I was exposed to rugby very early on, 17 years old, and I always tell people about it. So I'm what I consider just a rugby evangelist. So I'll bring it up in conversation with people that I just meet, and people kind of roll their eyes because I'll bring it up over and over again or whatever. But ultimately, it is an amazing sport that is built for the United States. There's aggression, there's contact, there's free flowing play, which is always fun to watch. There's not a lot of commercial breaks, so the action, it can hold your attention for a long period of time. It just needs people to sit down and watch it, and that's the big task that we have in front of us. As rugby people, we need to make sure that more people are viewing it. I think Austin does a lot of things wrong in this league, but one thing they do right is one of their slogans is, if you like football, you'll love rugby. And it's absolutely true.
I
If
agree
you're a
with that.
football fan that is right now, football as in the NFL is in the off season right now. There's a lot of people out there in the United States that are just looking at their phones, looking at all of the trades that are going on, all free agency with that, and they're missing that American football. If they could just watch rugby, if we can just get it in front of them, it will be amazing, and it will grow. It has grown since I was, first
I never
exposed to it.
thought this used to be talked about when we were in college. That
Yeah.
I remember, like Dan Jones. I don't know if he was the captain of Plymouth. I remember him saying like it'd be great to see like professional rugby league, and
Yeah.
now it's like a reality. Which
Mhm.
it's awesome to see. I'm hoping to see definitely see growth. And I think you recommended to me was the Rugby Network app.
Yes, yes.
So if you, I mean, and it's free.
It is
So
free. There's no charge, and they show all of the games, the replays. They have great content on there. Hopefully, my show, the Jack Stranger Show, will be on there at some point in the
oh, that'd
future.
be awesome.
That would be really good. They do overall right now just MLR content, not team specific, but maybe they'll go down that road one day. That would be cool to be on there. But I highly recommend anybody that's interested in rugby in the United States, go ahead and download the Rugby Network on your smart TV or on your phone, laptop, whatever. Get it in front of you because it is free, and they got some pretty good content on there.
And Tim Bollier has a question. Where does Major League Rugby primarily recruit from? A region in the U.S. or international? It seems like a little of both.
It's both. Yeah, so we do have a collegiate draft. That's 2 years, into it at this point. So all of the best universities in the United States, and even some small ones, they have great talent, in the collegiate ranks. So these guys can now get drafted. There's currently 3 rounds in the United States for the teams to go through to pick their picks, just like the NFL or any other major sport in the United States that has a draft system. So there's that pathway that's been created in the United States where you can, if you're a young kid, you can get fostered by your local club, right, and go through their ranks, and then eventually, go on to all-star teams, and then go to college on a scholarship and play there, and then get drafted into the MLR. So that pathway is there. We need to strengthen it, obviously, but the stepping stones are there for us to step up and climb the ladder. And also, of course, we have these Canadian and American talent on these teams. With that, it's not going to fill a roster, unfortunately, at this point in the league's history in rugby in the United States. So they do pull from these, I don't know if you want to call it like AAA leagues across the world, and even the old timers that are at like the NFL type of top premier level that are on their way out of the sport, they'll come over for like a year or two, just to expand and help grow this thing. So that exists as well. The international route, like I was saying, Bodine Waka is a guy that basically, if you want to consider it like this, is a AAA all star, that can come to the United States after 6 months of in New Zealand playing at the AAA level. He can come to the United States at the premier level here in this country and also showcase his talents. I think the end goal for Waka, unfortunately for us as a Free Jacks fan, is he's going to get a professional contract in Europe at some point, maybe this year at the end of the year.
Because he was on the All Black Sevens team too.
Yes,
Yep.
so he started out that actually you can download it. He's actually in the game that I play quite frequently. That's still good to this day. It's about 7 years old, called Rugby Challenge 3. Highly recommend it. It's like $20 on Xbox online. You can, and he's on the game. You don't have to make him or anything. He's there.
Well, that's super cool, and I want to bring up this, and we want to talk about your show a little bit here, Jack's Rangers, the
Mhm.
New England Free Jacks fan podcast. Which
Yeah,
I will say this: you're doing a fantastic job
thank you,
covering
man.
this because I don't, nobody else doing it, and you know your
Mm-mm.
stuff, So uh, I love it. I haven't seen every episode, but I do tune in, and it's good content.
I appreciate that. I actually stayed up until 2 o'clock in the morning or excuse me, this morning to get the content out for everybody. So it's nice to hear those kind words. I really appreciate that. The way that this thing got started is, yeah, you're correct that there's no other specific podcast out there that only covers the Free Jacks on a weekly basis. We are even doing this stuff at the off season, like once or twice a month. We would talk about, who's been signed to the team and all that sort of stuff. So this is it's just not me. It's not just me. It's just, your buddy Chris Lind, aka Bozo, that we have on the show, and Yeti poet Dave is there as well. So yeah, it's a collective effort, but mainly I'm the main guy behind it, and it was my idea originally to get it involved in this thing. And the way that took place is I was actually calling in to a University of South Carolina fan show that they do on a daily basis called the Spurs Up Show. And they do a daily segment where people can call in. He goes live for 2 hours a day. And I would go on there and talk about rugby. So eventually people were like, this guy's nuts. Like, why didn't he get his own show to talk about rugby? Right. So, and that's how it was born. And so I got inspiration from him because he's absolutely killing it with what he does as a University of South Carolina fan podcast / show. And also there's people involved in rugby in the United States that are kind of on my they're a little bit more experienced than I am that helped me along the way, like Scott the Big Guy Ferrara, who does the New York / New Jersey team podcast, if you will. So he was very helpful in me getting everything set up because I had no idea what the heck I was doing, Dan. Like I had no experience with video editing, knew nothing about podcasts other than listening to them. So when I first thought up the idea, I stayed up like in the middle of the night. I couldn't go to sleep. I was just writing down ideas. So I had so much passion for it initially, and it was just I fell in love with the idea truly. So when people, I always tell people, like, if you find something like that, pursue it, because your body and your mind is telling you something. If it's pulling you towards something, at least try it out. If it doesn't work out, then at least you can say you tried.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. No, I love it, and we'll definitely have to get a link in the description here for that,
I
because
appreciate that.
definitely want to check that out. How'd you come up? How'd you decide on the name?
So the name, I was thinking about this, right in the time I was creating this whole thing, and I was like, I had a sticky note in front of me, and I just wrote down Jack's Rangers. And I looked into, because Rangers obviously is a part of the history of the United States, goes way, way back to the Continental Army. And there was a group in New Hampshire that was a part of the New Hampshire line of the Continental Army called Whitcomb's Rangers. So I was like, I got to pursue this. So there's a historical part of this as well that ties into the whole thing. Obviously, the Free Jacks and the Revolution and the Patriots in this sports market really embrace the history of the founding of this country and what our ancestors had to do to make sure that we were not a part of Great Britain any further. So I wanted to embrace that as well. You can see the tricorn hat there. We got some modernization there with the pit viper looking glasses, and the mustache obviously is my thing. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally dig that. I like the logo too.
cool.
Who
Thank
have
you.
been some of your favorite guests that you've had on the show?
There's been so many. We're 33 episodes in as of today, and we've had a bunch of players. So what's been so great is the team itself has really embraced our little podcast, and they recognize us as like the only people that kind of cover it. There's another guy that does podcasting that is a Free Jacks fan, so he'll throw in a little bit of podcasting about the Free Jacks, but mainly he's a global rugby. He's on that type of scale, like talking about leagues all over the world. So we're really the only people that cover them. So they embraced us initially very early on and allowed us to get the players on. So Kyle the Eagle Sequeira is one of my favorite personalities in sports in general. This is a guy that grew up in Rhode Island and Connecticut, so he's a New Englander, plays for the team. Is just got that he's got like a party attitude. You just want to like smile and chug a beer when you're talking to him. He's that type of personality. And by the way, he has a luxurious mullet that just kind of adds to his legendary status. So I've really enjoyed having him on like twice at this point. I think is the amount of times he's been on. I'd love to have him on again because he's just one of my favorite people on the team. But in addition to him, we've had one of the USA Sevens players, women's players, Christy Kershey, who's from this area, a New Englander. I think she played soccer at a very high level in New England, and then like randomly heard about rugby, and within 12 months, Dan was playing for the national team.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's just an example of the untapped talent that we have in the United States. Athletes that play other sports, and then eventually they're told, okay, well, you're done with this now because you're not good enough to go on to whatever level it would be ahead of them that they can't get to. But that's not the end of the road. For if people just were aware of rugby, we could be a powerhouse right now if the talent that's been cast off, and I'm not talking about bad behavior, I'm talking about just you can't get to this level, whatever that highest level is, if they just grabbed a rugby ball. We would be unstoppable at the world level. So that's just an example of someone that did that, and within 12 months, she's playing for in the Olympics essentially.
Because
So
a lot of people, that I played with. Now we were at D3 college, but there was a
mhm,
lot of people that they were big high school football players.
mhm,
They got
yep,
to Plymouth State and were like, I don't want to pursue football anymore. And they
yep,
were great additions. I mean,
yep,
Plymouth ended up winning I don't remember what the small school national championship,
yep.
with a lot of ex football players.
Yeah, Chris Lynn
So
tells me about it all the time
I'm
because
sure he does.
oddly enough, the team that you guys played to win that national championship, the head coach of that team is now the head coach at my alma mater that I'm on the board of trustees for, and he's
Oh,
an
wow.
alumni of Carolina. So we all have that connection, and he's a fantastic coach. He's won 3 national championships at the level that you're referring to. So super excited about him joining. But yeah, man, it ultimately you can pick up a lot of good talent for those collegiate high school, or excuse me, collegiate football, dropouts or washouts, whatever you want to call them. They don't want to pursue it any further. We've got one on Carolina right now who's lighting up the Southeastern Conference in rugby. He was a previous offensive lineman that lost 100 pounds and is now playing lock. He's a fantastic rugby player.
Yeah, I mean, when I went out, I was an ex wrestler, so they just liked me because I
Mhm.
could tackle. But
Yes, yes.
remembering the plays was a whole nother ball game for
Right, right.
me.
Yeah,
So,
for
what do you
sure.
think the future is of the podcast? Like, just keep growing as the league does, or
Yes, that is the goal. I'd love to do this full time. I think that's quite a few years away ultimately. I would love for this to be my full-time job. And like I said, I don't think it's anytime soon, but eventually I'd love to get that level. There's actually something called Stretford Paddock, and they cover Manchester United as a fan podcast, and they do they do videos every single day, multiple times throughout the day to kind of get people hyped up about their games that they play, twice a week or whatever it is. And I see those guys, I'm like, this is my inspiration, along with other people like the Spurs Up Show, Chris Phillips, my buddy, that I want to follow down that pathway. But it's only going to work if people get more interested in the sport, obviously. But ultimately, what I'd like to do this year, I've got it planned out. I'm actually looking over at some audio video equipment that I purchased. I want to do fan reactions after the game. So I've
oh, I
a
like that idea.
microphone, yeah. So I'm just interviewing people as they walk out of the stadium, or even as they're walking in for pregame stuff. So that type of stuff. Eventually, maybe even a real studio. I mean, we're talking way down the line here, big time goals. But like, me in a studio somewhere, talking about the Free Jacks, I think that would be so cool.
You definitely get some good fan reactions. I mean, after having a bunch of the Free Jacks IPAs and them winning, I was pretty jacked up leaving the stadium myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Got some fan questions for you. First one from Chris Lind, and again goes by Bozo on the show, which he is
Mhm.
a bozo. That fits him perfect. You can only choose one name for RNY: Dirt Peckers or
Mm.
semifinalists.
Well, let's give them all the respect that
We
they
try not to
deserve. They're
use Peckers on the show, so we appreciate that,
oh.
Chris. But
So he's referring to New Jersey. Hoboken RFC is what we call them because they play in New Jersey, although they call themselves New York. It's the a tale as old as time, right, for professional sports in New York. They can't stay away from New Jersey. But yes, I think I think semifinalists is the way to go for their nickname because their fan base loves to throw it in our face. Even though we've only had one full season to attempt to get into the playoffs, we didn't make it. But their team has been successful in getting into the playoffs, and then they pee down their leg. So semifinalists is the perfect name for that team. Yeah, I think that's the way that we got to go going forward, just to mock them a little bit.
And I saw that you were down there, and I could hear Free Jacks fans during that game. So, is there like was there a group that all went together, or was it random that like all these other people went?
So yeah, it's definitely not random. We've started a group, myself and Doc. Doc is the main guy behind it. I'm just kind of like helping out or whatever. Called the First Regiment, and what it is it's essentially a supporters group that's unofficially a part of the Free Jacks organization. Not really, but kind of. You know, they help us out, and ultimately the goal is to make sure that we're growing the fan base and keeping people engaged in this entire process. So it's very similar, and a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at this, but it's very similar to soccer groups that you'll see, like the Revolution have the Rebellion and the Midnight Riders. So it's kind of based off of that concept where it's a community of fans together. So we have chants that we'll say throughout games, and we did that as you're saying at New York. And by the way, at New York/New Jersey, it was a complete morgue in there, other than us cheering on our Free Jacks. It was weird. It was like we were watching wrestling. I guess what is Japan is supposed to be really silent, right? Is that
Yeah,
is
they
that the
like to
case?
clap. They like to do more
Yes.
clapping during when they
Yes.
like something.
So it was a absolute morgue in there, unless New Jersey was about to score. But other than that, it was our group, the First Regiment. About 30 of us made the trip down there, and we're planning on doing the same thing on April the 24th as well to go down there.
What I did notice is there was a lot of people watching from like the basketball courts and the tennis courts there,
Yes,
and
yes,
I'm thinking, okay, get these people to get buy tickets because I'm
right,
assuming they didn't buy tickets to stand on the basketball court. So
correct.
that
That
could have
that
been a good opportunity for them.
For sure, and maybe those people will buy tickets, but I mean, it is a concern if you're just letting people view for free. That's not great. And I know that their general manager, I was watching him walk over with a police officer to like see if he could do anything, but there's nothing that they can really do except putting up some banners and stuff like that to keep people from viewing it that way. It's unfortunate that club has had. I think they were at 3 different venues last year. It is tough, especially in the COVID world, and property is so valuable there in the New York area. They've had a nightmare scenario trying to find a venue. So it's great that they're actually playing somewhere. I guess is one way to look at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we had one more fan question from Dan Morris of the Morse Code podcast. Any relation to Philip Seymour Hoffman? I don't know what Dan. He's kind of he's a jokester, I guess.
No, but I'm a big fan of his work. Rest in peace to a great actor there. Big fan of him in The Big Lebowski. He
Yes.
really keeps that story going with his depiction of Brant.
Low key, what made Along Came Polly was him. Every time he was
Mm,
on screen, it was absolutely
You're right.
hilarious.
You're right. That's a good
Uh,
movie too.
do want to get into just real quick. I know you know a little bit about wrestling. We just had the passing of Scott Hall, one of my all-time favorites, Razor Ramon,
Hmm.
2014 WWE Hall of Famer. This is hurting wrestling fans.
Hmm.
He's just one of those guys that, like, yeah, he was loved, especially anybody that's my age, between Razor Ramon and the star of the NWO. Do you have a
Hmm.
favorite Scott Hall moment?
Man, I was a WCW guy, or excuse me, child, when I was growing up. So, in the South, that was just kind of the way it was. WCW was the king, and when him and oh my gosh, Kevin Nash joined up, it was like a huge moment, and it felt that way at that time too. And when the NWO started, how cool was the NWO, man? The theme music and having Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Dude, they were the best. Like everybody wanted to be in the NWO. Those shirts must have sold, $1 billion worth of
To this
shirts, right?
day.
Oh my gosh. I would rock that to this day. And I'm not even a big wrestling fan anymore. I mean, for me, it was like a childhood thing that I still reference every once in a while. I'm that guy. But I would totally rock an NWO shirt for sure right now.
I do, and we talked about this on the show the other day. I think the NW, I think Hall and Nash going WCW is what started the biggest boom in professional wrestling history.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
you don't get Stone Cold to the level that he is if
Right.
there wasn't that competition.
Yes.
Vince McMahon was never going to lose, in my opinion. He's the king of wrestling. But what a time, absolute amazing time in wrestling, and Scott Hall is a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument that the Attitude Era never gets off the ground without them leaving the company and jumping ship to WCW. Um, it's interesting, and like I mean, he is a game changer in that way. He and Kevin changed the business forever with their move. Yeah, so
Yeah,
a great worker as well, like super talented. I mean, the height that he was, the athleticism that he had, the look that he had, that persona is just. I mean, he'll never be forgotten.
the NWO started the cool heels thing. They were supposed to be
Yes.
the guys
Yeah.
that you boo,
Mhm.
and it became cool to be the bad guy, which,
True.
in my opinion, is a big thing with Stone Cold Steve Austin being an anti-hero.
Yes.
The
Yep.
NWO did it first.
Man, you're
You know.
taking me down a path right now of just nostalgia, big time, big time.
Well, I mean, I don't like to say I'm a wrestling historian, but I've followed wrestling my whole life, so you know.
Right on.
Um, I want to get into some top fives. I know you don't have some for all of them. Favorite movies that you have?
The Big Lebowski is number one, and that is like a distant second. In that list for distant second and through five or whatever is Top Gun's in there. What About Bob is an amazing movie with Bill Murray in it. It's absolutely hilarious if people who haven't seen it. It's pretty obscure, I think, but I watch that movie like at least once a year. In the summer, it's a great time to view it. Um, Other than that, man, like let me see. I don't know. That the top three, I got a top three for you there.
Yeah, I mean, I like all those movies. Big Lebowski's absolute
Classic.
classic.
Yeah.
Something you have to see.
Mhm.
Um, do you have favorite TV shows? Maybe a top five here.
Yes, top 5 here, let's see, The Wire is number 1, amazing, social commentary in that show. It's like a cop show, but they cover the drug dealers as well, and teachers' unions, they go after everybody, newspapers, politicians, so good.
It's
Sopranos is in there too. Go ahead,
that
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say we'll get into The Sopranos in a second. Wire has been a heated debate on Let Freedom Ring because I had never
Oh,
seen it, and I watched season
what?
one.
Okay.
Yes, and everybody said, "Well, how can you be such a big fan of Sopranos and never see The
Mhm,
Wire?"
mhm,
And I watched one episode of The Wire and never watched again. And then I kept getting stuff on the show about people saying you got to see The Wire. I
mhm.
watched the first season. I do need to go back and just finish that show
Yep.
because it is one of the all-time greats, from
Yes,
what
for
I
sure.
understand.
Yes, I couldn't disagree with that, or I cannot disagree with that. I do think it's one of the best of all time, and also, The Sopranos. I guess maybe it's because I was in New Jersey recently. It's such a good show. The pilot on Sopranos is a 10 out of 10. It is so good. If people haven't seen it in a while, go back and watch that. Treat yourself because it's really good. Um, and then we kind of get into murky waters here. The Righteous Gemstones is really, I wouldn't say it's top five, but I just watched it the second season. Really good writing on that. Really good.
Have you watched any Ozark at all?
I've seen like the first two seasons. I couldn't stay with it after that. I mean, like I know my sister's like, you got to watch more of Ozarks, but it's okay. I mean, it's not terrible by any means. I just couldn't stay with it.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I had never seen it. I watched all four seasons in 1 week.
No kidding.
I couldn't stop watching it. Um, but yeah, I'd give it maybe another try.
I'll tell you what, like that first, we're talking about pilots here with The Sopranos being so good. That first episode of Ozarks is also a 10 out of 10. Boy, they pull you in real quick in that one.
And that was my issue with The Wire. I didn't feel pulled in. And a
It's
lot
a
of people
slow
said
build. Yeah.
I look at all my favorite shows, Sopranos. I don't know if you were into Oz. Oz
Oh,
is,
yes.
I
Oz is
believe,
good. Really
thought
good.
that was a 10 out of 10.
Mhm.
Those pilots that they pull you in, it's a big piece of it. But Ozark did a good job with that.
Just thought of another one that's in my top 5 for TVs. Curb Your Enthusiasm. So funny. Oh my gosh, big Larry David fan here. So a lot of these are coming from HBO, which tells you a lot about how good HBO is. But
Oh,
yeah,
they changed television because they were allowed to do things for a while that other places couldn't do.
that's true. Prior to Netflix, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And do you have a top five favorite rugby players?
Oh boy. Mm, I think Johnny Wilkinson, if you read his book, for the folks that don't know, he was one of the best players in England for a long time, a fly half. So he was the guy that's responsible for basically being like the quarterback on the pitch. I mean, I hate saying that, but the best comparison is he's the quarterback on the field. But he won the World Cup for England pretty much single handedly. I mean, that's horrible to say because it's a team sport, but he kicked the drop goal to win the World Cup in '03 when I graduated high school, as a matter of fact. But his obsession for the game, like if he didn't find rugby, he might have been somewhere in a mental institution because he has that level of obsession with stuff. Like he would, kick rugby balls until his feet would bleed, even though he was wearing cleats and stuff like that. He would be out there just a perfectionist for hours and hours and hours kicking that ball. So I think he's my number one. After that, it's a lot of Free Jacks players. Dougie Fife is up there, just an all timer. Dougie Fife, who plays for the Free Jacks, has been at every level of rugby. So this is a guy that is a real superstar of the league. Played for Scotland. Played for Scotland in the Six Nations, played for Scotland Sevens, and won a trophy for Scotland Sevens. He's done it all. He's played professional rugby in Scotland, and now he's with us. He's only 31 years old, but he is the oldest player on our team, which is a pretty wild stat to think of, a 31-year-old being the oldest player on a team, but he
Makes me
is.
feel 37, a little bit old there.
Oh, you and I
Uh,
are the same age. How about that?
yeah, I will say I was right up before I moved after I got the trivia question right. Before that, when Dougie Fife, because it was his first game back from suspension,
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
like, "Welcome back, Dougie!" And
Yeah,
he looked over and he said, and he gave me a nod. So
yeah.
uh, very cool. Yeah, he's another great player. Yeah, any
Bodine,
other?
Bodine
Yeah,
Waka. I mean, how could you not put him on that list? Just a superstar in this league. There you go. Looking
I
good
need that
too with his
jersey.
mullet. Oh yeah. Those are, I mean, listen, we not only do we have the best organization in MLR, we have the best jerseys, and it's not even close 3 years running. Like nobody comes close to us. There's teams that are actually copying our look for their jerseys so their fans don't get upset. That's how good our jerseys are.
Oh, they
Pretty
did.
cool.
This jacket. So I've been watching
Hmm.
the games. I'm like, I need some merch.
Right.
Big merch guy. They were sold out of everything. So
Yes.
I was,
Yep.
I didn't go. But now that I got this jacket, it was perfect at the game. Uh, yeah, I love their logo. Love their merchandise. They're doing a great job
I'll
with
tell you
that.
who needs some merchandise is your boy Bozo Chris Lind. He has zero Free Jacks merchandise. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I picked up the St. Pat. It did definitely needed a winter hat, and I was like,
Yeah,
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 I'll
yeah.
take one of those. But
Looks
yeah,
good, man.
Chris, get on that.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get into my favorite segment of the show, which is blank versus blank. I'm gonna give you two things. You got to pick one, and you got to tell me why.
Okay.
First one, and I know one just came off suspension, but more important to the Free Jacks, Waka or Fife?
Oh, Waka, there's no doubt in my mind. Waka's, his responsibility as a fly half is be a quarterback on the pitch. So he's making the attack happen. Fife is back there as defensive cover and also adding into the attack every once in a while, depending on the circumstances. So Waka is Tom Brady. You can't really, if he goes down, everything changes. With Dougie Fife, even though he's a great impact player and the most experienced player on our team in terms of professional rugby, he gets suspended and we slot in Mitch Wilson, who's a veteran in this league, and everything continues to run as is.
Yeah, I've watched the Bodine Waka play from the first 3 minutes of the game like over and over and over.
It's
How
incredible.
he makes that kick and he gets to the ball and puts in another one, and I'm thinking he's got this guy. Obviously he had support, but
Yep.
man, and
I,
that's a good
I-
selling point because all my friends that were with me, I'm like, this is what I'm talking about right
right.
here. You know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people aren't exposed to rugby. They don't really know much about it in the United States. But one thing I always try to tell people is in rugby, everybody gets to touch the ball and everybody can be a decision maker at any given time. Right. So, I mean, a lot of people are familiar. Like if you're an offensive lineman in American football, all you're doing is blocking someone else and occasionally running down the field to block somebody. You never touch the ball unless it's something has gone horribly wrong. You never score a touchdown and you never touch the ball. You never tackle anybody in the traditional sense of like being on defense. But in rugby, all of those things are possible when you're a player.
Yeah, no. I think, like I said, I think the entertainment value's there too. I'll probably
Everything.
know the answer to this. Would you rather watch a pro rugby game or a college game?
Oh boy. So we talking about football or just any sport in general?
I was thinking rugby.
Oh, okay. Oh gosh, because I played at a big university. That's tough, man. I'm going to put them at equal levels here. Actually, I'll put the Free Jacks a little bit higher just for the entertainment value. Because if you're watching a collegiate game, you're not going to be in a stadium. You're just going to be on a pitch somewhere. There's no concessions. There's no entertainment. There's no festival atmosphere.
Oh, that's very good point there. Um, Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels, if you could only have one.
Easy, Ric Flair, no doubt. No hesitation in my mind. And my girlfriend is the biggest Shawn Michaels fan of all time, but Ric Flair is the greatest American, well, excuse me, greatest professional wrestler who has ever lived. Woo! There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Now, do you feel like that's because I kind of agree, kind of don't. Is that more like in the South, like that's Flair country?
Yeah, not only is it a Southern thing, it's also I'm from the Carolinas, specifically North Carolina, and Ric Flair, at the height of his popularity, could have ran for governor of North Carolina with no political, input whatsoever. Nobody would have to know his positions, and he'd win by a landslide. That's how important Ric Flair is to the Carolinas and Charlotte. If he ran for Charlotte mayor, forget about it. There's no contest. He wins.
I remember when I got to go to the Greensboro Coliseum before. I think I saw
Hmm.
when they were the Bobcats at the time. My girlfriend was
Yes.
living there at the time. We went to a preseason game,
Hmm.
and they have all this stuff dedicated. I mean, Flair did a lot of things in the Greensboro Coliseum, and I kind of felt this
Yes.
like as a wrestling fan, like, man, this is where Flair did most of his
Right.
stuff here.
Right.
So uh,
Yeah. Big Flair guy.
yeah, big Flair. I know he probably didn't draw because I always get into this debate because Hogan definitely drew more money in the '80s. He was with the World Wrestling Federation, but even Hogan says Flair's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, Hogan, maybe in terms of on-screen persona, character, beats Flair out, kind of, especially the kids, right? But in terms of wrestling talent, there's no contest. It's Ric Flair.
See, but I will say I think Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring performer of all time.
Okay. All right.
Um, would you rather listen to Prince or Michael Jackson?
Ooh, I like both, but I think Prince gets the edge just in terms of musical talent. Uh, I'm sure some people know this, but his first album, Prince played every single instrument on the album. Like there was no backup band. Like, of course, he had backup bands playing live, but for the actual recording in studio, he played every single instrument. The musical talent of Prince is off of the charts. Rest in peace.
I remember when he passed, Stevie Wonder said if Michael Jackson is the king of pop, he
Mm.
said Prince is the emperor.
Oh, I like that.
So
Um, Eric Clapton said was asked by someone that said, "What is it like being the greatest guitar player of all time?" He says, "I don't know. You'll have to ask Prince."
that's that's a stamp of approval of anybody.
Heck yeah.
Uh, here's one that I ask a lot, and this debate has been going on for a while. I know, and Tom Brady is coming back to football. He's gonna do another season. He hates his family. He doesn't want to see them.
Yep.
But he had a really good run here in New England with a really good coach.
Yep.
Who's more responsible for the success of the New England Patriots over that 20-year span, Tom
Oh
Brady or Bill
boy.
Belichick?
I'll go Belichick just because I mean, he's the coach. He makes everything else happen. Football drives me nuts with how important the quarterback has become. Obviously, it's always been an important position because you're distributing the ball, point blank. Period. So if you're throwing interceptions every play, you're not going to be able to score points. But the way that they have elevated the quarterback position in this league drives me absolutely crazy with the penalties and the emphasis on passing everything. It drives me nuts. Obviously, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback who ever lived, but I would take Belichick over that span of time with an average quarterback. I still think they win at least one Super Bowl, maybe two.
I mean, I know he gets a lot of flack about his drafting over the last couple of years, but I mean,
Hmm.
he Tom Brady didn't build those teams. He's a big piece of that team,
Yeah,
but
of course.
I've always gone Belichick. We've had a lot of people saying, "Well, Brady's won a Super Bowl now and he has." And I go, "He went to a place where he had everything he wanted."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he ran the team, right? I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why the speculation is the reason why he retired is Bruce Arians and him were finally butting heads. I guess he wasn't getting his way or something like that, so he walked away, and now he's wanting to come back. I don't know. I listen. He is the greatest quarterback who's ever lived. He was an amazing Patriot for the amount of time that he was there. He certainly helped in winning all those Super Bowls. But there's still there's always going to be that part where I'm like, why did he leave? He could have just retired as a Patriot. Ugh, it drives me a little crazy.
He just can't give it up,
Yeah.
and he kept himself in shape. I think someone like Brett Favre could have maybe played longer, but we know Favre didn't really take care of himself.
That's
He
right.
was a big drinker for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, all right, toughest question in blank versus blank, and this is going to be the hardest question we're going to ask you all day. You have
Oh
two
boy.
people that help you out with the show: Bozo, Chris Lind, or Dave. You can only keep
Oh
one.
no. Oh no, this is bad. Okay. I think Dave brings that element of coaching analysis. Now I know that Bozo can do that, but we've never put him in that real position of doing that on the show. I like what Bozo is doing right now, where he's covering the rapid reactions of scores around the league and also making his predictions. Because we're not an MLR overall show, but we want to have that segment in there for like 10, 15 minutes talking about what's happening around the league. So I do value his contribution. I think he's doing a fantastic job, but it's Dave.
All right, fair enough. I think that is good though that people can, because I do want to know more about other stuff that's going on, and
Yeah.
and that's why I started following the page. I want to know if, like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good about 4-1, but am I going to get my hopes up and thinking, hey, maybe this team's a championship caliber team,
Hmm.
and I just don't know what else is going on.
Yeah, I really appreciate Bozo jumping in there because I don't watch all the games. I'll watch a lot of the highlights, but I just don't have the time to watch all these games and do the podcast as well. There's hours and hours that goes into making all this content, so I just don't have the time to watch all the games. So I'm glad he does right now. He's got a kid on the way, so we'll see what happens after that. But I appreciate his contributions very much.
Now, Chris is a great guy. We've had him on Let Freedom
Yes,
Ring. I
for
remember,
sure.
so funny Chris Lynn story. I'm down in the Cape, and he goes, "Hey, like, what are you up to?" And I go, "I don't know. I'm hanging out. Like, what's up?" He goes, "Well, I'm down in the Cape, and I'm not too far from you." He goes, "Well, why don't you come down and get a picture for the alumni page?" And I go, "Oh yeah, it sounds good." I go, "Give me the." He goes, I'm actually getting married in like 3 hours or something." I go, "Yeah, all right, yeah, all right. I'll figure out a way to meet you." I'm like, "You're getting." I just thought it was funny that he's getting married. He's like, "Yeah, but I only have like a couple hours to do this. So can you get down to this beach?"
That sounds like old Bozo right there for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Get your priorities straight, Chris. Jeez, come on, man.
But awesome, awesome. So, where can we find you, Phil, with the podcast? I believe you just added another, or an
Yes.
Apple, or
Super exciting stuff. We've got Apple Podcasts is finally on board. So you can get us on all of the major podcasting platforms. I can finally say that now, so that's nice. JaxRangers.com and on social media at Jax Rangers on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Yeah, that's the other one.
awesome, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Love to do this again, maybe at towards the end of the season, see
Love
how
that
this
idea.
whole season went. But anyways, everybody out there, Thursday we will be in studio with Brandon Belanger. Um, but until next time, let freedom ring.
Huzzah.
I love that huzzah.